heads over to the Senate.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's talk about what this bill does. It raises the fees on landlords trying to evict a non-paying tenant, makes those court costs unrecoverable, and it gives a tenant a first right of refusal once an investor wants to sell their property. I oppose this bill because I support the mom and pop landlords out there, but I also oppose this bill because I support the tenants. See, what the minority leader was saying, where I think a lot of the members in the chamber didn't get, is the market is supposed to be the safety net. The market. Meaning is if you don't like your landlord and you don't like the living conditions of your house, you can move. Unfortunately, there's just not that many houses for rent because in the last 5 years, the government has completely influenced and jacked up the real estate market. You're not going to fix a problem caused by government with another government solution. Everyone here says we love affordable housing. We support affordable housing. Well, no one has talked about how raising the fees on the people that provide housing makes it more affordable. I'll tell you, after Friday night, we had some good debate about the difference between taxes and fees. And people in the chamber have kind of settled on a fee is supposed to provide some type of service. You get something for it. Well, in this fee, you're getting a non-paying tenant a court date. It's interesting. After we had the debate on Friday night, I get a text from this investor in Montgomery County. He had a non-paying tenant. He filed February 22nd, sent me the form, filed February 22nd, got a court date May 29th. So think about that. That's just the court date. It'll take another 2 months to get that tenant out of that house. So think about it from the investor's perspective. He filed in February because they didn't pay January's rent. January, February, March, April, May. May he goes to court. June, July, they're getting the tenant out. Then he has to rehab the house. Then he has to put it back on market. Then he has to pay the realtor. He would be lucky to get the first month's rent in September or October. This is an unmitigated disaster for the mom and pop landlords out there. That's the system that we're putting in place, and this bill aims to make it worse. Then you look at this ridiculous bill part of this, dealing with the sales price on the first tenant refusal. Think about it this way. You own a house. Third-party person comes up to you, that's what it's described in this legislation, says, you know what, I'm going to pay you $400,000 for the house. And you're like, oh, that sounds pretty good. I go and talk to my tenant who has a 1-year lease. The lease is already over. They're on the month-to-month portion. And I go down there hat in hand and say, Mr. Tenant, Mrs. Tenant, can you sign my paperwork to let me sell my house? And the tenant goes, you know what, I'm going to pay you $400,000 and $1 more. But here's the problem. I have no down payment, so I'm going to require you to put 5% closing costs, and you're going to have to split transfers and recordation and pays both sides of that. But because we have sales price instead of net proceeds in the legislation, you're forced to sell it to the tenant, costing yourself about $25,000. There's not a person in this chamber that would make that decision if it was their money and their property. Why are we doing with other people? This is misguided legislation that happens when we allowed activists to write the legislation instead of actual professionals that choose and deal with this every day. And I'm happy to go red on this for all the people in this state that this will affect. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further debate? Floor leader.